What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Knives of the Round Table, and this time we're going to be taking a look at the Enrique Peña Rhino. So the Rhino is part of Enrique Peña's X series. So Enrique, he's a knife designer and knife maker, and he does custom knives that look more traditional with what I would call modern deployment methods. But he also designs knives and has them manufactured by Riyadh, and that series, I don't know if you can tell, it's denoted by the X series. So all of the X series were designed by him, manufactured by Riyadh, and that's everything else that is done by Riyadh. They are extremely well made. There's always some reluctance or reticence to use or to purchase Chinese-made knives, but in terms of just pure quality, the Riyadh knives are just incredible. So the Rhino ticks a lot of good boxes for me. First, it's a 3¼ inch blade, which is just it's the sweet spot for me. It's still very capable of doing everything that I wanted to do, while still providing a full 4-finger purchase on the handle. So there's not a lot of drawbacks. So it's my ideal size, and as you can see, I get exactly a 4-finger purchase on the knife. So it's a 3¼ inch blade of M390. Now this one, it's a thicker knife, and I've said in the past that a lot of people like their knives to be lighter, but in my opinion, or in my preference, I like the knife to feel a little bit heavier. I like the feeling of solidity of a knife. So this one has fairly thick scales and no internal milling other than the obvious holes here, which makes it makes it feel really solid in the hand, on top of the fact that they're using a fairly thick blade stock. But let me give you some size comparisons here, so you get an idea of kind of what I'm talking about. This is the mini bug out, and that's the full-size bug out. So for a sharpened blade length, you're looking very similar to the full-size bug out, although, as I said, it's a much thicker knife. So if you compare stock thickness, scale thickness, the Rhino is significantly more robust. It's also bigger in that direction. Now, if we compare it against the paramilitary 2 and the Para 3, okay, so it fits somewhere in the middle of these two. But if you see size-wise, like the handle, for instance, right, the Para 3 has just about the same size handle, but the Rhino has significantly more blade, and that's it's a little bit of that's one of the critiques of the paramilitary design, right? That the blade to handle ratio is off. So the blade to handle ratio on the Peña is much better, because if you see a carry profile of this, right, you'll see that they'll carry very similarly, right? They're about the same size in the pocket, even in thickness, but you get much more blade with the Peña, with a Peña Rhino. Now, this particular version of the knife, this camo kind of engraving or laser etching that they did, it was done by Knife Joy. Well, no, I purchased it from Knife Joy, and Knife Joy gets McNeese knives to do some engraving, and this doesn't void the warranty. So they have some that that have like a Warhog, kind of World War II airplane designs, those kinds of things. So the original version is just plain titanium, kind of similar to what you see here. But I like the kind of the camo look of that scale. I think it pops really good. So let's talk ergonomics. So this is really good ergonomically. The grooves here, okay, and the groove up here kind of guide your hand to exactly the place that it should go. You know, finger, and then there's a flat side right back here for your two last fingers, and then your thumb just naturally goes to there. So the ergonomics are really, really good. Now it has a sharpening choil. I wouldn't call it a finger choil unless you just want to kind of put your tip and the tip of your finger on there, but I wouldn't call it a finger choil for usage. So you're a little bit further away from the blade than but because you can put the thumb back here, you can still do some finer tasks. Now the action on this, it's a little bit strange because it's a fairly thick blade stock. It deploys well. It's just not very fast because you have to move a lot of material. It's a heavy knife with a heavy blade, and I think the best deployment is probably with the thumb studs. My preferred method is always a flipper, but in the case of the Rhino, I think the thumb stud does a lot better for the action. It's not drop shut. You can coax it down, but I would call it a very decent action for, I think it's on phosphor bronze washers. So this is definitely a knife that I think it's designed for a little bit harder use. It's thicker stock, thicker scales. Now the scales are contoured. So they fill your hand very well. So I feel like I can push through some heavier resistance material, and you should, because it's thicker stock. You're gonna have a little bit. It's not a slicer. You can have a little bit of a harder time pushing through some stuff. Now, if we talk fit and finish, with Riyadh, it's almost a given. They do such a good job. It's insane the number of knife makers that go to Riyadh and they do all of these designs and all of these different grinds and stuff, and they get all of it really, really good. I mean, the grind, this is a drop point blade, but the grind going this way, and the way it matches with the swedge up here, it's just really, really nice with a satin flat going that way. The contrast of the three planes, it's incredible. The lock bar, locks solid. It has a lock bar insert in there. It's really, really good. I forgot to say, in ergonomics, it's really good in the hand. I would call the ergonomics really good. You do feel the pocket clip. It's tall, but because it's flat and it's rounded, you feel it. But I wouldn't call it a hot spot per se. I think maybe if you use your knife for hours on end and you're not wearing gloves, maybe you'd feel it. But I think overall, I think the ergonomics are pretty good. Now, finally, what I call the airing of grievances, right? A Seinfeld reference. I think maybe the pocket clip could be a little bit thinner. I think the choil is pretty big for not being a full finger choil. But I think other than that, the Rhino is actually, I was actually forgetting the biggest one. If you take a look at this, there's the slightest of recurves right there, and I think the recurve is so slight and so small that all it does is make it hard to sharpen. It doesn't really act as a recurve. It doesn't really function as a recurve, being so small. But the recurve right here, I would have just preferred for the blade to go straight from this point to right around here, and then you get the belly. It's such a small recurve, you almost don't notice. I mean, I had to put a ruler to kind of highlight it, but in this case, I would have preferred just a flat right here to turns into a belly. It just, I like to sharpen my knives, and that just doesn't allow for a fixed system like a KME or a Hamstone or one of the Ortiz Prof for you to sharpen it. I would highly recommend the Peña Rhino. If you like that size and you like solid feeling knives, okay, this does not feel like a light and airy carbon fiber bug out, okay? This is a heavier knife. But if you like, you know, your knife to feel solid, to feel there's a quality about heavier things, and I would say that the Peña Rhino definitely has it. So if you don't mind that it's a thicker blade stock, so this is not a slicer, and if you don't mind that it's heavier, if you like that, then the Peña Rhino is definitely one that I would recommend. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you think that I earned it, then hit like, subscribe, and until I see you again, take care.